Hello and welcome back to the SNS Football Podcast. We are back for another stream. Now, first off, we do have to do some housekeeping. We do have to apologise on behalf of the fact that there was no stream last week. Unfortunately, I let the boys down last week. Last minute, unfortunately, due to personal issues, I had to pull out of the stream. We were meant to do one last Friday. Reviewing game week 25. Unfortunately, I did have to drop out. But Morgan and Braden hopefully will be joining us throughout today. At the moment, you've just got me. But hopefully throughout the stream, Morg and Braden will drop in as we will be reviewing game week 26, a couple of games from game week 26, as well as previewing game week 27. Now, because we did miss a week, we missed an entire week. It's been a fortnight since I've been here, since the boys have spoken about football. There are some massive, massive results that happened in the week that we missed that I really do want to talk about with you guys. So feel free to put comments in below about the games that I'm about to talk about whilst the boys aren't here. So we do start off with Manchester City 2, Tottenham 3. Now, an absolutely shock. Well, I say absolutely, just an unbelievable result for Spurs. Obviously, now we know Spurs followed that up with a 1-0 loss to Burnley away from home. So was it a bit of luck from Spurs or was it just a masterclass from Conte? We'll never know. But absolutely no one saw this result coming. Manchester City, obviously, faultless at the top of the league. Everyone pretty much said the league is over. City have won it. It's just a matter of time of when they get delivered the trophy. And all of a sudden, Spurs have gone to the Etihad Stadium and got a shock 3-2 result. And with Liverpool, the form they're in and the way that they're binning teams off, the gap is now 3 points in the Premier League with the same games played. So we have a title race, despite Chelsea, as much as Morg, when he comes on, will speak about, despite Chelsea, quite frankly, bottling it this season, we have a title race. Liverpool and City are probably going to be the two teams that are battling it out for that Premier League trophy at the end of the season. Harry Kane in this game, was it performance of the season so far? Put it in the comments below. Was Harry Kane's performance in this game performance of the season? In my personal opinion, I can't really think of an individual performance that has had such a direct impact on the result of a game than this one. I know Salah has had quite a few decent performances. The 5-0 away to Watford win was one of them. The goal that he scored that day was absolutely ridiculous. And even Ben Foster said how ridiculous it was afterwards. But yeah, was Harry Kane's performance in this game performance of the season so far? Obviously, Kulusevski as well getting on the score sheet. And I'm happy for Harry Kane. 2 goals, he's England's talisman. Looking into the World Cup in Qatar in the winter period, we need Harry Kane scoring goals if England are to want to win anything in Qatar. We then move on to... I don't want to talk about it for long. I'm glad the boys aren't on here whilst I'm talking about this, but Aston Villa 0, Watford 1. An awful result for Villa. But weirdly, speaking to a friend of mine before the game, I did say that I wasn't confident at all. Watford hadn't won a game yet under Roy Hodgson. It was bound to be Villa that it was going to happen against. Villa having a really good home record. It was a day that the records were just going to get thrown out the window. And it was a game that Villa in the first half, I thought, had the better of the play. Emmanuel Dennis had a really, really good chance, but Emi Martin has made a fantastic save to deny Dennis. But in the second half, Emmanuel Dennis, that man, punishes Villa for poor, lacklustre defending, getting caught on a transition, and Villa lose the game 1-0. And no wins in 5 for Villa. Well, 1 win in 5 for Villa. No wins in the last 3. 1 point in the last 3 against Leeds, Newcastle and Watford. Not really the results that Villa fans have been looking for, but hopefully with Brighton tomorrow, Villa can look onto a more positive outlet for the rest of the season. As for Watford, obviously, they followed it up, which I'll speak about with the boys, with a 4-1 defeat to Crystal Palace. So just Villa's luck, really. The only team that Watford can beat at the moment is Aston Villa. So Man United fans, you're not the only one. Myself and Braden have managed to lose to Watford this season somehow, our team. So, and that is Watford doing the double on us. And considering that Watford, I believe, have got less than 20 points this season, Villa have done really well to give them 6 points this season. So well done, Villa. We're trying to keep Watford up if there's any Hornet fans in here. And then a result that sort of made Watford's result almost void was Burnley getting a 3-0 win away to Brighton. And Brighton are a team that everyone would sort of say, look, they're really good at the back, but going the other way, they struggle. They struggle to put the ball in the net, which them conceding none against such a resolute defence like Burnley isn't really a shock. But conceding 3 goals to Burnley. Wout Weghorst getting his first Premier League goal of the season. Magnificent finish. Josh Brownhill getting a goal as well. It was just a perfect day for Burnley, and that's now 2 straight victories for Burnley. And all of a sudden, the relegation battle, which we're going to speak about, is getting all that little bit more interesting. Burnley are winning games. Watford won, even though they did then follow it up with a defeat. Newcastle, 3 out of 3 wins, and then go and get a draw against West Ham at the London Stadium. And in my opinion, they probably should have won the game. The bottom 3, the relegation scrap is really hotting up. And look, I reckon I got pelters away from this by saying that I think Leeds United are up for the drop this season. And even Morgan Braden, when they were on here, they definitely questioned what I'd said, and rightly so. My opinion needs to be challenged, I'd rather them say if they don't feel like that's going to happen. But Leeds United are in trouble. Everton are in trouble. Brentford are in trouble. All of a sudden, that massive gap is now slowly withering away. We've got Newcastle, who are just 2 points, I believe, behind Brentford. 1 point behind Leeds and Everton. It is really worrying for a Leeds and Everton, a Brentford, who are struggling for points and form when the boys at the bottom are now picking up results. Norwich, obviously, aren't out the equation either. They go to Southampton tonight in 36 minutes' time, roughly. If they get a win, Watford go back down to the bottom of the Premier League, I believe. And all of a sudden, Norwich with a win could go out the bottom 3. This bottom 3 race, which looked absolutely dead and buried, with a couple of managerial changes, is looking like it's going to be a real dramatic end to the season, which is what we want. We don't want 3 teams almost like last season. We knew that Fulham were going down. We knew West Brom were going down. We knew Sheffield United were going down. Realistically, we knew the 3. It wasn't entertaining. We didn't know who was going to go down. I really do think this could go down to the last wire of the season. And I'm going to put it out there now. I think there'll be a real shock in that bottom 3. I think there'll be a club that you really didn't expect at the end of the season that may have started the season pretty well. Put in the comments below who you think, which team I'm alluding to there. There's a big clue. Maybe if I said the Bees would be an even bigger clue. Brentford do seem to be struggling at the moment for form. They really do need to steady that shit very quickly, because with the boys at the bottom winning games, I remember saying to Braden a couple of weeks ago that Brentford are in trouble. And I know they've signed Christian Eriksen and he's a fantastic player, but he needs to hit the ground running because Brentford are struggling. They sort of caught the league by complete surprise in the opening parts of the season. Very impressive indeed. Villa didn't manage to beat Brentford in the 2 fixtures that we played against them this season. And they looked pretty good. Their philosophy was different. They brought a free-flowing style to the Premier League like Sheffield United did when they came up. But the wheels have really fell off the bus and they are really struggling for points. And the game this week that they've got, when we go on to it, is absolutely massive. Absolutely massive against Newcastle. That is a 6-pointer. Brentford at home, they've got to win that, because a Newcastle win, that puts Brentford in horrifying trouble. And the Bees fans will not want a relegation scrap. Because let me tell you, I've been there with Villa. It is not nice. It is far from nice. So, big wins for Burnley, Watford, and Spurs a couple of weeks ago. We do apologise if you have just joined us that we didn't do a stream last week. Unfortunately, I had to pull out through personal reasons. And yeah, we couldn't do a stream, unfortunately. But we are back tonight. Morgan and Braden are going to join us hopefully at some point tonight. Morgan, definitely. We aren't too sure about Braden yet. But we now move on to game week 26, reviewing them games. Leeds United 6, Leeds United 6, Liverpool 6, Leeds United 0. I mean, how long is it that we're going to take to talk about Leeds conceding the amount of goals they are and people not raising it as a severe issue? Now, I'm a big fan of Bielsa's philosophy. I've got his books over here. I'm currently reading his books. I admire him as a coach. But when does it not come a point, Leeds fans, where you're slumping lower and lower in that table? You're getting 6 put past you against Liverpool, 4 against you against Man United, 3 past you against Villa. That's 13 goals in the last 3 games. Yes, they have injury problems. I completely understand that. But Leeds fans, surely to God, there is a point where you go, this isn't acceptable anymore. We're losing too many games of football. It isn't working. It is just not working anymore. Liverpool absolutely cruising through this game. You know it's bad when Joel Matip plays a 1-2 with Salah unopposed virtually. It was like watching a training session of an under-10s unopposed. Honestly, if you haven't seen the goal, please go and watch back the second goal. I mean, all 6 really. 2 of the penalties, just so lazy, so poor to concede. Luke Ayling and Stuart Dallas conceding penalties. And, you know, I look at Leeds and I think I'm bang on to say that they were in trouble. I think people will seriously look back at what I said a couple of weeks ago and do you know what? He actually had a point. Because Leeds are struggling massively. They are struggling to win games of football. And you're always going to struggle to win games of football when you're shipping so many goals going the other way. You're always going to find it really difficult to win matches of football. And Leeds' philosophy is what it is. You know, people know what the philosophy is like. It is full-blooded, attacking, free-flowing football. I completely get that. But the question has to be, are Leeds going to get relegated? Are Leeds United, after so long in the Championship, are they going to be back this season? With teams below them picking up points, that loss to Newcastle was an absolutely monumentous blow, what looks like now. Leeds are not winning football matches and they are slowly but surely slumping into that bottom 3. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Leeds get on now till the end of the season because, like I said, 13 goals conceded in their last 3 games. Yes, granted, 2 of them are away against Liverpool and Villa, but you cannot be conceding on average more than 2 to 3 goals a game. It is simply not good enough. As for Liverpool, what a fantastic performance from them. They are relentless at the moment. They are looking as though they are challenging Manchester City at the top of the Premier League, which we don't really want. We do not really want an uncompetitive Premier League. We want the bottom 3 to be interesting. We want the top 4 to be interesting, which is getting very interesting with Arsenal's result last night, which we will speak about. Okay. But look, Liverpool, absolute machine. Mohamed Salah, when are we going to talk about this guy as being one of the all-time Premier League greats? He is really proving to be an all-time Premier League great for Liverpool. Mane as well, getting a hat-trick. Sadio Mane being amongst the goals is definitely a thing that Liverpool fans want to see. Luis Diaz looking good coming off the bench as well. Obviously, Van Dijk getting his goal. You know, everything's just seemed to be going right for Liverpool at the moment. And you do wonder, with Liverpool's injuries last season, it just shows how much of a difference it makes when you have a fully fit squad. Liverpool at the moment they've got pretty much a fully fit squad, and we really are seeing the benefits of that. Liverpool haven't got the muscles to flex like Manchester City, where they have a squad of so many players and they can just fill players in and out. Liverpool have a very thin squad, and with the lack of spending power, it's actually remarkable how Jurgen Klopp has really made this oiled machine into an absolute force that is putting teams to bed. And this result was absolutely no different. Watford 1, Crystal Palace 4. Again, like I said earlier, when I was speaking about Watford beating Villa, they then go and follow it up by getting smashed at home by Palace. Goals from Zaha, an absolute belter of a finish from Gallagher as well. Mateta getting on the score sheet. Musa Sissoko made it 1-1 after Palace opened the scoring very early on. But Watford haven't been conceding many goals under Roy Hodgson, and this was a real shock result to me. It seemed like they'd fallen apart, and I look at Watford on paper, and I do think they've got a decent team, but I think the amount of transition that they've had with their managers and players, and I really do think it's an uphill task for Watford to stay in the Premier League. After they beat us, I thought, you know what, they could give it a really good go here, but results aren't going their way with Newcastle and Burnley now picking up results. If Norwich pick up a result tonight, they're rock bottom of the Premier League. So, yeah, Watford are in massive trouble. And Roy Hodgson has got arguably the biggest job that he's ever had to have in football, trying to keep Watford in the Premier League because they are in serious trouble. Good result for Palace. Palace are going to probably cement themselves in a mid-table finish, and Vieira is going to have a very, very successful first season at Palace. I think a lot of people probably predicted Palace to be near the bottom three because no one really knew what Patrick Vieira was capable of, and he was a very unexpected quantity at this level, only really managing in America before. But he's done a remarkable job so far for Crystal Palace, and I really do like what they're building there. It was a massive rebuild process for Palace in the summer. They lost 10, 12 players through, being released or contract running out and, transfers in general. It was a big transitional period for Crystal Palace, and I'm really glad. I'm really glad to see Palace with a young talent that they've got, the Ezes, the Elises. It's really good to see Palace doing well. Now, to arguably the shock result of the midweek game week 26, was Burnley 1, Spurs 0. Now, something very interesting. You are going to have to take my word for this, okay? I predicted that Burnley would win this game. Now, myself and my friend, we do like to predict games. And I said to him, do not put Spurs on anything. Do not bet on Spurs at all, because I think Burnley are going to beat them tonight. And he looked at me as though honestly, he looked at me as if I said Watford were going to win the league next year. They're going to start up and win the league next year. I said to him, look, Burnley are on a really good bit of form. Spurs are off the back of that win against Man City. Everything tells me that this is going to be a shock and Burnley are going to get the win. And Burnley did really well in this game. Wout Weghorst is looking a real player. He's looking a star signing. And if you look at who Burnley have given away, look at who they've replaced him with. A Champions League pedigree player who's now banging in goals and hitting form. It looks like a very good bit of business from Burnley, getting rid of Chris Wood now and getting in Weghorst. And especially if they stay in the Premier League, it'll look like genius business from Burnley, who, I've got to be honest, a couple of weeks ago looked dead and buried, really. But Wout Weghorst hitting form, it's a magnificent time. He really has hit the ground running, and that's what Burnley needed. They need results. And one thing that you have to admire about the Sean Dyche philosophy is the lack of goals they concede. You know for a fact that you are going to struggle to put a goal past Burnley. You are going to have to play really well to score past Burnley, because they are such a phenomenally well-oiled side. They are so difficult to beat, so well-disciplined out of possession. And Spurs, quite simply, didn't take their chances and couldn't break them down. And you have to admire Burnley, because they're working with such a limited budget. They lost their top striker. They went out and got another one. And they're making a real fight to stay in this Premier League. And looking into their next game, or next 2 games, because they've got 2 games in this next game week, if they get back-to-back wins, they're roughly on the same points as Villa, which is absolutely mental. But that's how close it is down the bottom of the Premier League. No one is safe. In the bottom half of the Premier League, no one is safe with Newcastle, Burnley, Watford, all now picking up results. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see who gets relegated at the end of the season, because I don't think this is the last of the drama, especially to do with the bottom 4. Spurs, massive blow for their top 4. They're now 6 points away from Arsenal, who are now occupying that top 4 spot. This was a massive game. They needed to win it. With Arsenal winning their game the day after, or a couple of days after, and Spurs losing this one, it was a massive loss for Spurs. Let's be honest here. Really poor result for Spurs, off the back of such a fantastic win away to Man City. It's such a Spurs thing to then go and lose to Burnley away. But then again, Burnley is a very tough place to go, and they are very well disciplined. And the first goal in any game is very crucial. But I said to my friend, this game is going to be the one where the first goal is crucial, because if Burnley get it, Spurs aren't scoring. And I was spot on. So we then move on to the big game. Yesterday it was Arsenal 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. A fantastic result from Arsenal, who managed to come back from 1-0 down. Wolves are doing really well this season. I've got to admit, I wrote them off at the start of the season, but they have really shut me up. They have been fantastic. And when Wolves went 1-0 up through Hwang Hee-chan, obviously a bit of a mistake at the back from Arsenal, I really did think that Wolves had gone and win the game, winning at Spurs, having really, really good results. They're probably one of the form teams in the country, I believe, especially in the last 10 games. They've been very, very good. Wolves have, a team to admire, very good at the back. Just struggle again, like Burnley, really, to score goals, but they are very good going defensively. But Nicolas Pepe, Eddie Nketiah, come on, change the game. Both of them, fantastic substitutions by Mikel Arteta. And look, fair play to Arsenal. They turned the game on its head. 1-0 down at home. And this is a monumentous result in relation to the top 4, because if we just look at the top 4 race right now as we speak, so Manchester United, are currently occupying the top 4 position, or the 4th position. But Arsenal, 2 games in hand, 1 point behind. And what is remarkable is that if Arsenal win their game in hand, they not only go into the top 4, they are just 2 points behind Chelsea, having played the same amount of games. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that Arsenal would be just 2 points behind Chelsea after 26 games or 25 games in the Premier League? It is absolutely mental. But that top 4 race is really hotting up. And for Wolves, it was a bit of a shattering result to their top 4 hopes. A win for Wolves would have actually put them 5th, ahead of Arsenal and above West Ham. But you've got Man United on 46, Arsenal on 45, but they played 2 games less than Manchester United, who are above them, and West Ham, who are below them, who have 42. And they've played 1 game less than Wolves, who are on 40 points. So it looks as though that Arsenal are in the pole position to finish in the top 4 this season. Who would have thought it? Yeah, they're without Europe, but who would have thought it that Arsenal would be in a position at this point in time to make top 4? Who would have thought it? Everyone doubted Arteta, but he could be the man. He could be the man to bring Champions League football back to the Emirates Stadium next season. Look, everyone's probably going to say that Man United are the favourites. Man United are looking a little bit more improved now under Ralf Rangnick. So they probably are the team that you are looking at and thinking, yeah, do you know what? Man United will probably make that top 4 place, as everyone expected at the start of the season. I don't think anyone could have anticipated anything near what has happened as far as things go with Manchester United. But yeah, big result this. 96th minute winner from Alexandre Lacazette. It was a massive goal, and you felt it. I was watching the game and you could really feel how big a goal this was. And that's just on the telly. So God knows what it felt like live to be there. Heartbreak for Wolves, of course. It would have been a fantastic point away from home, as Arsenal have been really, really strong this season at home. And we move on to our predictions now. I'm going to wait, hopefully, for Morg and Braden to jump in to do the predictions. Okay. So I am just going to go back. Just take that off the old top. We are just going to have a bit of a general chat, really, about the Premier League. And who do we think is getting relegated? Who do we think is going down this season? And look, it's a very interesting question. Who do we think is going down? Put it in the comments below. Who do we think is getting relegated from the Premier League this season? Now, obviously, I don't want to do any predictions without Morg or Braden. Okay, and I do want to talk things Chelsea and Man United with the boys when they do come on. Okay, but who do we think is going to get relegated this season? Now, obviously, the candidates, we've got Norwich, we've got Newcastle, Watford, Burnley, Brentford, Leeds, and I would put Everton in there now. I really would. I would put Everton in there because Everton are going through a bit of a rough patch. Frank Lampard, he's gone into a really hostile situation. He's gone into a hostile dressing room. He's gone into a dressing room with no confidence, and that has become massively apparent in defeats to in defeats to Southampton. And it really doesn't get any easier for Everton, does it? It really doesn't get any easier. They have Manchester City at home in their next game, and with the form that Manchester City currently find themselves on, wow. It is going to be a massively tough game for Everton. They are going to have to put in some shift to get a result. But if we look at the bottom of the Premier League table, it is really hotting up. So you got Norwich on 17 points, but a win tonight puts them 19th. They will leapfrog Watford, but Burnley have a better goal difference. God, quite remarkable. Burnley, 29 goals conceded in comparison to Newcastle, Watford and Norwich's 53, 47 and 45 respectively. Wow, what a defensive record from Burnley, but it will count for absolutely nothing if they can't get the results. 11 draws this season and only 3 wins. That's what's killing them, Burnley. They need wins, and 2 of them have been in the last 2 games. So before that, just 1 win in 21 games for Burnley. Not really good enough when you think about trying to get out of the Premier League, but they are getting better, which is the main thing. Obviously, you got Everton on 22. My word. Leeds on 23 and Brentford on 24. Wins for Burnley and Newcastle this weekend could actually drop Leeds and Everton into the bottom 3, because Leeds have got a goal difference of -27, which is just absolutely horrendous. Leeds fans surely can't be happy with that. -27 goal difference. But we can welcome our first guest of the stream. Okay. Chelsea Morgan is going to be in. Morg, how are you, mate?
Good evening. I'm good, thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. We've
Good.
Just to let you know on what we've done. We've spoken about a couple of results because obviously we weren't here last week due to unfortunate reasons. So we covered Man City, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Watford, Brighton, Burnley as sort of the main 3 big headlines out of that game week that we missed. We then covered game week 26, which there's some big
kind of summed up the last podcast we did. I think everything you said in that podcast has come to fruition. Leeds have been sucked into that relegation battle. Newcastle have brought themselves away from it and put themselves in a better position. Burnley have started to move away. This man can see the future.
Well, I mean, to be honest, Braden has started calling me Mystic Morg. I don't know what it is, mate, but I seem to just get things right. I did want to talk to you about that before we do move on to predictions for the upcoming game week. Obviously, look, who do we think is going down this season? Because we'll talk about top four as well. But I want to get your thoughts on who is going down this season because like I've just been speaking about before you joined us, it really is interesting down there. You know, Watford, Newcastle, Norwich, they're all picking up wins at the moment. Burnley are now 2 straight wins. It really is hotting up down there. And like you said, Leeds are now getting dragged into it. So who do you
Well,
think
that's
is
it.
down?
Well, I think because I said last time I was on that it was going to be Burnley, Watford, Norwich, and I was pretty certain that it wasn't really going to change. And then you threw in the Leeds curveball and it sparked chaos. But I've just pulled up the table now to give myself some assistance in this one. Even Brentford, you know, you can go from Norwich 17 points to Brentford 24. That's bottom to 14. So you could pick any of those 7. Um, I still think Norwich will go down. I still think Watford will go down because I think there's too many. I mean, we all know the Norwich yo-yo effect that seems to happen every year, no matter what. Watford have too many issues in the background of their club to even be stable on behind the scenes, let alone on the pitch. They think they're a much bigger club than they are, and that ego from the owners just won't ever transpire into good performances. I do still believe Newcastle will stay up. I think the signings they made in the summer and the January were good enough to keep them up.
Mm-hmm.
It's Leeds or Burnley for me. And right now, you would say I think I would agree with you and go Leeds because Burnley have had an upward trend since January.
Yeah.
Everton shouldn't be anywhere near that by the end of the season, and Brentford have got a good manager in Thomas Frank. And I said last time that they've got the signings to just be good enough to stay up. So Norwich, Watford, Leeds.
And look, like when I said it a couple of weeks ago, I've really looked into this, and Leeds United 13 goals conceded in their last 3 games, 3-3 draw to Villa, 4-2 draw, 4-2 loss to Manchester United, and now a 6-0 defeat to Liverpool.
Oh, they concede goals for fun.
I said earlier, earlier on in the stream, when does it become a point where, as good as Bielsa is, and as much as I love him, I'm reading his books at the moment, as much as I love the guy, when does it become a point as a Leeds fan where you sit there and go, do you know what, we're actually in trouble here? Because the sides below them, like I said, are going to pick up points. And that's why I said it at the time, because I could see Newcastle getting results. I could see Burnley potentially getting a result or two. The sides at the bottom are picking up results. And if I'm a Brentford and a Leeds, if I'm Brentford and Leeds, I am really, really on edge at the moment because I know Brentford have just signed Christian Eriksen, but he has got to hit the ground running to keep Brentford in the Premier League because at the moment, they are really on a downward trajectory. And when you get dragged down there, it's
hard to get back.
Yeah, games can become a slog massively. And look, Everton are in a very precarious position at the moment as well. Like you mentioned, I would expect Lampard and the players that he's got there to get them out of it. But again, that's a very hostile dressing room.
You've got to think, though, Everton have got big players. They've got players that won't be used to a relegation battle. You look at the players at Burnley, Watford, Norwich, even Leeds, Newcastle and Brentford to an extent. Those guys will be used to a relegation battle. That is what they signed for. They signed to keep that club in the Premier League. You don't sign for Everton to be in a relegation battle. You sign for them to challenge for European football. So for them to be in that mindset, we've seen it. Even with the Leeds side that went down, when we were tiny, these players that were in that team at the time weren't there for that reason. Didn't have the mindset to keep them up, and they vanished. Everton could go the same way if Lampard can't instill a mindset into those players of You've earned yourself this position of 16th. Now get yourself out of it. I think, yeah, it's Leeds need to be careful that they don't literally tunnel vision themselves into going down, because we can all see that Bielsa's style is draining those players. It's making them tired, and we said this, that they only have about 3 years. He only has about a 3 year lifetime in management. So I don't think I don't think right now. I don't think Bielsa's the right man for them. I think while he's got all the tactical nous of any manager in world football, he hasn't got the squad that he needs to be able to keep Leeds in the league.
I'm really surprised that Bielsa, because Bielsa is common, and I've mentioned it on here before, that he signs 1 year deals. He is someone that he isn't there for the long term. He's a very short term manager. His philosophy is very short term, and the physical demands of it, it really doesn't work out the later it goes on. And you look at the injuries within the Leeds United squad, and you look at the squad that they actually have, it is so paper thin for the injuries because of the physical demands. Like these players are picking up injuries like there's absolutely no tomorrow, purely on the basis of the physical demands of the system. And Leeds are really struggling, and they are in a very, very dangerous position, because with sides picking up points below them, I'd probably look a genius at the moment in saying that they were gonna go back in there, and they were gonna be in a relegation scrap. But at the time, I thought it's going to come round here, because
it was a bit of a stab in the dark to begin with, but it has really come alive. And like I said, I was still at the table up. They have the worst goal difference of any team in the league bar Norwich.
Exactly.
They go into matches and the game plan was, we'll outrun you. We'll outrun you, we'll knacker you for 80 minutes, and we'll get a winner at some point. Even now, it's still will outrun you, but it's almost as if we'll outrun you no matter what the score is. Against Liverpool, they were just running. It was like no game plan. If we run, we'll get a goal.
Well, if you look
at no way.
Well, if you look at their two away results against the big boys this season, they show exactly why you would never, ever, and managers never, ever go to a Man City and a Liverpool and play them at their own game, because they got binned off 7-0 at the Etihad at the start of the season, and they've now got binned off 6-0 at Anfield. That's 13-0 on aggregate against the big boys away from home. I'm not being funny, but it's just embarrassing how many goals they concede. Like it actually is embarrassing. And I don't want to talk about Leeds too much, but I think I was spot on in what I said, and I do think it is going to be Norwich. I do think it's going to be Norwich, Watford, and Leeds United. I do think Leeds are going down.
It's upset. Well, it's kind of. It's not what any of us wanted, though. I think, every club in the Premier League has history with Leeds, particularly Chelsea and United. But if you take away your club allegiances for a moment and just think about Leeds as a club and an institution, having them in the Premier League is beneficial for English football. You need that kind of a fan base. I watched the Leeds versus Manchester United game on Sunday, and when Leeds got those 2 goals to get back in it, that place was bouncing. You don't see that anywhere else unless you're in the Championship or below. So the Premier League will miss it if Leeds do go down. But like we said, they haven't got the playing style model to stay in the Premier League.
That's the thing. Yeah, no team has a divine right to stay in the Premier League, and I just think Leeds have got to be very careful, because that them and Brentford are the ones that really could get dragged into a fight.
I think Brentford will be just safe enough. I think because of the issues at clubs below them, they'll be able to ride the season out.
Yeah, I would like to think that Brentford will stay in the Premier League. Out of Leeds and Brentford, I would definitely back Brentford out of the two to get out. But before we get on to predictions, top 4 obviously has become very interesting in the last 48 hours. Spurs losing to Burnley, which again, Mystic Morgue, I said that Burnley had won 1-0. So, yeah, I don't know how I've managed to do that, but that
Where's the
win,
rabbit coming out the hat?
I don't really know, mate, to be honest, at this point. But that result for Tottenham has, wow, it's put their top four hopes in absolute.
They're in the bed.
Yeah,
I
they're.
don't. Tottenham don't get top four.
I mean, 4 losses in their last 5 games. Poor results as well in the 4 losses. But then they go and beat Man City in one of the most bizarre games of football I've ever seen.
With 2 injury time goals. Mental.
Arsenal, exactly. And, Tottenham win that game against Burnley. They're level on points with West Ham, with a game in hand on Man United, or 2 games in hand on Man United, who are currently in 4th on 46 points. That game was massive for Spurs. They needed to follow it up with a win. And you now look at the top 4 race, and it does genuinely look like a straight shootout between Manchester United and Arsenal. Arsenal.
Oh, I don't think it's as cut and dry as that.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think I personally think it is. But obviously, you have got West Ham and Wolves who seem to be learning. I do think both of them teams will fall away. I think they'll be top 8, both of them. But I think we're going to start to see a gap because I do think Arsenal and Man United are going to pick it up to get into this top 4. And look, you shouldn't rule Spurs out. They do have 2 games in hand on United, and if they win their 2 games in hand, they're a point behind. So you shouldn't rule out Spurs by any stretch of the imagination. But with Arsenal, 2 games in hand now over Manchester United, 1 point behind. Watford next for Arsenal. Surely Arsenal now have got they are in the driver's seat in these next 2 games in hand. I wouldn't say cement, but really put a foot in that top 4.
If we go back to the Spurs thing, just briefly, it worries me what Conte came out and said after the Burnley defeat, particularly with how bipolar that was to what he said after the City win.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he went from this is the best squad of players I've ever worked with to we need to evaluate my position. Well, which one is it? Which one is it, Antonio? What are you thinking? What do you actually think is going on at that club? Because clearly it's not the best group of players you've worked with, because you've won a league with the Juventus, a league with Chelsea, and a league with Inter Milan, and you've managed the Italian national team. I don't think this transitional Spurs squad is going to beat any of them. Well, guys just come out, and Fabrizio Romano has actually just tweeted about Antonio Conte now. The club confirmed to me that they know the reality. The club is very happy about my work and what we're doing with my staff. The problem is that I'm a perfectionist. I'm a person that wants to get to a result quickly. And that was part of the issue with going to Tottenham, was that it was a squad in transition. It was a squad that has some quality at the right end. It's got Harry Kane, Hugo Lloris, Heung-min-Son. But then it's got this middle area of just players that are coming through and will be good in 2 or 3 years, but aren't going to provide instant results. And Conte needs instant results. That's what he's done everywhere he's been. So that's why I don't think they'll get top 4, because it's not the right squad at the moment for him to really get the best out of it. I hope he stays there, because I want to see him succeed. And I think Tottenham is a club that he can do well at if he gets the backing. And that's a common theme with Tottenham, is the manager doesn't get backed. Going on to the top 4, we know the top 3. We probably know the order of the top 3: City, Liverpool, Chelsea. Throw the teams up in the air, catch one, pick a name. Is almost what I feel like doing with the next 4. United could go on a run like they did under Solskjaer in the mid part of last season and not lose any games away from home and somehow come from behind in every game. Arsenal, again, could be like they were at the very beginning under Arteta, looking very good, pushing City all the way like they did it earlier this season. Or they could end up losing to Burnley, Leeds, Villa and Brentford all in 4 games.
Yeah.
That's where I think West Ham and Wolves will always be around it is because they do seem to have a bit more consistency about them. I know they've also got less points at this moment, but you can almost guarantee they'll pick up points against the teams that are below them. They'll get a point or two off of the Spurs and the Leicesters that are just near them. And they'll sometimes nick a fluky win like West Ham did against Chelsea earlier in the season. I said at the start of the season it was going to be the same top four as it's been the last 2 years: City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United. I might change that to City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal because of the games in hand and having got rid of Aubameyang. That Arsenal side does seem to be a bit more together, all pushing the same way. And Lacazette, now with the captaincy, does seem to have them under his mark as well. And like we said, Arteta's finally starting to get them playing in his style, doing the things that he wants them to. It's becoming his team, which is good to see. Give managers time. So yeah, that's my top four: City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal.
I think Mystic Morg is going to be back again with an absolute curveball. I don't think the top three is staying the same as it is. I don't. I'm throwing it. I'm throwing that curveball. I actually think that Liverpool might end up winning the league.
I can see why you say that.
I've seen enough, and I'm going to be honest. Out of Liverpool and City, the team that are showing the consistency, the team that, in my opinion, are, because Man City and Liverpool have got to play each other still. And yes, Man City have been remarkable this season, but so have Liverpool. Liverpool have gone completely under the radar. They've strengthened the squad in the January transfer window by bringing in Luis Diaz, another attacking option. Mane now seems to be hitting a bit of form. Salah is just an absolute machine. And with Virgil van Dijk back in that defence, they honestly look unreal as a side. And, I think Chelsea out of the top four, I think they will stay in third position. Obviously we can have a little bit of a chat about Chelsea in a minute, but I do think it's, going to be a bit of an underwhelming Premier League campaign for Chelsea. Especially, considering that we thought Chelsea were going to compete with the two and it was going to be the most entertaining we've seen. But I do think it's going to be really entertaining. I do think it's going to go down to the wire. But I just think everyone thinking that City were going to run away with it, I just think that Liverpool might end up, because I think Liverpool will beat them. I do think Liverpool, Klopp's going to get his number.
City started to build up that head of steam, didn't they? Around Christmas and into the new year, they went on that mental run that they always seem to do at some point in a season.
Yeah,
and I think it was at that point where Chelsea dropped out of it completely. We're now 13 points behind City, 10 behind Liverpool, with a game in hand, but it's not close enough for that to really matter too much. Plus, we don't play at either of them now between now and the end of the season. So I'd be very surprised if we got drawn back into it. Wouldn't complain, but would be very surprised. Like you said, Liverpool have just quietly kept going about their business. They've got the players back from injury, but they didn't drop off. I think a lot of people would have fallen foul of thinking Salah and Mane have gone to AFCON, Liverpool are going to drop off. And yes, they did drop back a little bit, but it wasn't due to that, to Salah and Mane going. It was just due to City raising their level, in my opinion. And as you say, Liverpool are now showing that bit of consistency. Salah gets into any team in the world right now. Mane gets into any team in the world. Luis Diaz is the best signing to have. Liverpool finally has a bench that can support the first team. They can take out a Salah, put in a Luis Diaz, and that level doesn't really change. They can still attack with the same amount of ferocity. They can put in a Diogo Jota, and it still keeps the same level. That's what makes them so dangerous now, that they don't have this drop in level at any time in a 90 minutes. They're constantly putting pressure on you. That game at the is it at the Etihad or Anfield?
I want to say it's at the Etihad.
If it was at Anfield, I'd say it's Liverpool's title to lose. my personal opinion. I think Liverpool at home in a big game is such a hostile place to go. Even at the Etihad, I think Liverpool have a little bit of an edge because the Etihad doesn't have that same atmosphere. But
Mhm.
it'll be an interesting one. 3 points, 12 games. It's anyone's title.
I'm going to go with Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and Man United. I think United will make top four. I do think Alanga coming into the team at the time that he has, with the unfortunate events of Greenwood and stuff, is United are starting to get a little bit of a foothold again. I think
It's
they'll
just
be all
those games in hand for Arsenal that sway me.
yeah. It's look, I think it will be really tight between Arsenal and Manchester United.
We can't rule Chelsea out. I know. We've said Chelsea
Yeah.
a third, but we've got the cup final this weekend.
Mhm.
United win, Arsenal win. All of a sudden,
You're not.
United are a point. United are a point behind, having played 2 games more. Arsenal, if they win 2 points behind, having played the same amount of games, suddenly we're back in the top four race.
Do you know what? Before you came on stream, I did actually mention the fact that if Arsenal win their next game, they are 2 points behind with level games. And when if I'm a Chelsea fan sat there looking at that, I'm thinking, what on earth?
What's happened?
Yeah, just how but that's the way of the Premier League. I mean, I actually said earlier as well that regarding the bottom three race, that any team currently in the bottom half of the table is in trouble because it's only
Yeah,
7 points.
it's close.
Leicester and Villa are on 27. It really is tight. Everywhere in the Premier League is up for grabs, but I do think top four. I really want Liverpool to win the league. I really do. I want them to win it. I think they
I don't want
deserve.
City to win it again. That would be
No.
painful.
And I think Chelsea will be all right in third. I think
Yeah.
Chelsea will just go unnoticed.
We'll do what we do in cup competitions. We'll just grind out 1-0 wins like we did at the weekend against Palace. We'll just keep
Yeah.
nicking little wins, and I think we've still got to play Arsenal at home. We've still got to play United away. I'm pretty sure it is. So we've still got to play the teams around us.
I think it's mainly for Chelsea, just obviously, staying in that top four, not dropping out through any absolute horror shows. Arsenal seem to be breathing down everyone's neck at the moment. I do think you'll be all right though, because I think Arsenal consistency wise and Man United consistency wise, they're not the most consistent teams. I actually think that most of the teams that are fighting for the top four at the moment are going through inconsistent patches, and I do think the last 7 or 8 games of the season we're going to see a real interesting top four place.
I wonder if it'll be similar to the 18-19 season, Sarri season at Chelsea, where it was almost like no one wanted the top four. I think it was Chelsea, United, Arsenal, and Spurs. I think it was those four.
Kept losing.
And everyone was losing. No one seemed to actually put a foothold in until I think United and Chelsea both won one weekend. Arsenal and Spurs lost, and finally it looked like a top four had formed.
Yeah. Right then, we move on to the predictions. Now, this is something that Mystic Morg comes at every time. I got 4 bang-on predictions the last time that we predicted, so
oh god,
lottery numbers at the ready. So, the game that is currently going on as we're speaking now, as I'm currently talking, I believe that this game is 0-0 between Norwich. It is. So, what do you think is going to happen tonight? I personally think 2-0 Southampton.
I was going to say 2-0 Southampton. They'll have too much. They seem to pick up random results against the big boys, Southampton, where they'll beat a Liverpool or they'll beat a Tottenham. But no, I think they should be comfortable against Norwich.
Southampton have definitely went under the radar this season. I didn't.
Well, they haven't lost 9-0 for a change.
I know. It's weird, that, isn't it? I mean, they've really been quiet. 33 points they're on now after 26 games, 10th in the Premier League. You know, I had them near towards the bottom of the Premier League this season. So they've definitely shocked me. But Leeds Spurs, a very interesting game. Two teams that are out of form.
Two teams that are very inconsistent.
Two teams that are very inconsistent, and two teams that seem to concede a lot of goals at the moment. So this really, it's got the makings of being a
of a 0-0
game. Yeah, or a 0-0. Or a 0-0.
It always happens. Oh, there'll be loads of goals. 0-0.
I'm gonna go Leeds United 1, Tottenham Hotspur 3. I think Spurs will win this one quite comfortably. I think they'll go 2-0 up in the first half.
2-2.
Oh, he's gone.
I think both sides are leaking goals. Both sides can score goals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll cancel each other out 2-2.
Okay. Right, an absolutely huge game at the bottom of the Premier League, because if Newcastle win this game, they actually go ahead of Brentford on points. And I do think if Brentford lose this game, they are in real trouble. They are in serious trouble.
That sucks them back in. If Brentford lose, then they are in the relegation battle, no questions.
It is must not lose for Brentford at all costs. A draw wouldn't be the end of the world, but this is a massive game for Brentford. They have to get something, because if Newcastle go there and get a result, they are in trouble. So I'm going to go 1-1. I do think it'll be a draw. I actually think that Newcastle will take the lead in this game, but I do think Brentford will peg them back in the second half.
I think Newcastle will take the lead in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Brentford will get back in it. I think 1-0 Newcastle.
He's gone for it. Brentford are going to be in the relegation scrap. He's gone for it.
It's your turn.
Oh, yeah, 1-1 for me.
Yeah, I think Newcastle, they've got that quality at the right end of the pitch. And Bruno Guimaraes he's got the quality. Chris Woods is a player who will just pop in with a goal when you need it, and I think tomorrow could be the day.
And when if you cast your mind back, I remember when we were doing the transfer stuff, and I said that Matt Targett and Dan Burn were potentially two of the best signings of the window, and I remember everyone laughed at me. But again, Dan Burn's been phenomenal at the back for Newcastle, and Matt Targett has been brilliant as well. Newcastle, I thought, bought players really I thought their business was so intelligent, and I think the players that they bought were going to fit instantly in, which is what they needed. They needed a quick fix, and then in the summer they can go big. So, but we move on to Brighton versus Aston Villa. I mean, wow. I don't really know what to say anymore. I was hoping that me being Mystic Morg, I turned around to a friend of mine after we played, before we played Watford, and I said, "We're probably going to lose today." And he went, "You're off your head." I went, "No, I think we're not going to score, and I think Watford are either going to nick it or it's got 0-0 written all over it." We lost 1-0. Awful game of football. Villa are not playing well at the moment, but I weirdly have a feeling about this one. Brighton obviously do play a nice brand of football, but they have lost Dan Ashworth, their technical director, who I think is going to have a massive, massive negative implication on Brighton going forward. I think we're going to start to see a decline at Brighton, and I think we could potentially even see Graham Potter leave in the summer for a big job, with Dan Ashworth now leaving. I think with Dan Burn going as well, that's a massive loss for Brighton now, it looks like. I'm going to go 2-1 to Aston Villa. I think Villa will go 2-0 up and then concede a goal late on, and I think it will be a vintage Villa away performance.
I think you obviously know more about the Villa situation than me, and you've summed up something about Brighton that I was completely unaware of. I didn't know they lost their technical director. Mm-hmm. How that transpires onto the pitch, we'll have to wait and see. If it does affect them, you do fear that even Brighton at this position could be sucked into that relegation battle. They're only 6 points above Leicester and Villa, and all of a sudden that gap closes all the way down into the relegation zone. So they've got to be careful if things do start to go south that they keep it steady enough. And like I said, losing Dan Burn, he's a player that can play pretty much anywhere across the back four if needed. He did it. He played at left back. He was the 6'7" left back, but he can also do a good enough job there for it to not look out of place. My thought for this one is 1-1. I think Villa are so hit and miss at the moment, and Brighton do seem to just be able to do enough in their home games to get results over the line. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Okay. I do think 1-0 is a good shout. Villa are in a bit of a tricky patch at the moment. We're not really getting results. Obviously, Villa fans have been heavily critical over the last couple of weeks. Look, they have to be. Leeds, Newcastle, and Watford, and we've got to point out the three of them. It isn't good enough. I get that. But what people have got to understand is that Gerrard's working with 90% of a squad that isn't his.
So it's not his squad, is it? Yeah. It's still Dean Smith. So, that's the same at a lot of clubs.
It's Dean Smith's squad. We've gone from a system that was heavily reliant on wide players to now inverted tens, which again is a massive transition in itself from a tactical standpoint. I think the first few games that we played it, we took the league by surprise, and now teams seem to be finding a way to actually play against us. We are lacking a bit of width, which unfortunately in Gerrard's system, that is the way it is.
Yeah.
Your fullbacks provide all of your width in the system. And with Cash and Digne, you would have thought that, Villa have got two very good fullbacks that can provide that attacking outlet. But what you've also got to think about is going that way. And the Watford goal is a classic example of that, that we conceded, got caught on a transition. And unfortunately, that's the way it rolled in that game. But I'm hoping Villa can return back to winning ways, because if we lose again and we start losing games, you can always get sucked back into that relegation fight. So we need to steady the ship as such. But I think
this is an interesting one.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right, of course. But yeah, this one is difficult, because I was speaking to the same person that I was speaking to about Burnley, and I said, I've got to be honest, though, I do think Palace will be all right here. I think Burnley are on a roll, don't get me wrong, and it wouldn't surprise me if Burnley went there and got a draw, but I do back Palace at home off the back of a 4-1 win against Watford. I do back Palace to win this one 2-1. I think both teams will score.
No, I agree. I'm going to go 2-1 Palace. I think the way they played against us on Saturday was good enough to get 3 points even out of that game. It took a moment of Ziyech brilliance, which we've seen a lot recently, to get past them. And they're a good side. Vieira, we knew Vieira would get them playing good football. He was never going to stick with the Roy Hodgson mindset and game plan. He's got a very good squad of players. Conor Gallagher was always, it's that core of the squad is there with Zaha, Gallagher, Guehi. They've got good players in there that now they've got a good system to play in. You're seeing them thrive. So Burnley, yes, they've started to pick up results, but the next defeat is coming. It's just, where will it come from?
Yeah.
They've just got to now grind out results against the 6 or 7 teams around them, get those 1-0s over the line, and eventually they'll see themselves to safety. But this isn't a game that they'll grind out.
I agree. I think Palace will have a bit too much for Burnley, but I think Wout Weghorst will score, and I think Burnley will put up a really good fight. And I do think they'll be all right this season.
They'll push them all the way, but they don't get anything out of
it. Man United, Watford. Now, obviously, when the reverse fixture of this was played earlier on in the season, Watford actually came out with a 4-1 victory, and that was the end of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't think Watford are going to win 4-1, but now I've said that, I am going to at least put 20p on it. But I think this will be fairly routine for Man United. I would have said...
to think so.
Yeah, I would have said that it would have been really close if they hadn't have lost 4-1 to Crystal Palace Watford on Tuesday, Wednesday night. So I'm gonna go 2-0 United. I just think this will be routine, to be honest with you.
I'm going to go 3-0 United. It's going to be comfy. They're not going to have to worry. They shouldn't have to worry. Watford, they'll just be able to knock it around. They'll find the holes in the Watford defence. They've got enough quality. Yeah, should be easy.
Everton, Man City. Look, if Everton win this game, this will throw such a spanner in the
Title race for Chelsea.
Chelsea will come back, isn't it? But do you know what? I weirdly think that Everton could actually get something from this game. I am getting a sense that I usually get, and I think that Everton, with the position that they're in, how desperate they are for points, I really do think that this could be a very gutsy performance from Everton, and they might be able to get a draw out of this. I'm going to go 1-1. I think Everton might be able to get a draw. I think they might take the lead, and I think Man City will peg them back.
Everton seem to be able to pull it out, don't they? They seem to, no matter what season has happened, they seem to be able to pull out at least 2 wins against the Big Six.
Yeah,
and you can guarantee one of them won't be against Liverpool because they don't win that. They don't beat Liverpool.
No.
So I might have to agree with you, but I'm tempted to go for an Everton win, but I think I might stick with a 1-1.
Okay.
But I wouldn't bet against. If I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet against Everton to go to 2-1 up and really shut up shop from about the 70th minute. Frustrate Manchester City. Don't give them any space around the 18-yard box. Just screen it all the way across. And I do think Everton could do a job. Lampard knows how to beat Guardiola. He did it at Chelsea.
Yeah. I think this will really be an interesting game. And I think Liverpool, especially considering Liverpool aren't in this game week, I think Liverpool will be sat there licking their lips, really thinking, if Everton do us a favour here, we really could be in this title race. Not that they're not in it now, but it
could blow it wide open.
Oh, massively. Another game that I would probably say is like Crystal Palace, Burnley. Very hard to predict, but I'm going to shock everyone, and I'm going to say that Wolves are going to win this 2-1. I think Wolves will go to the London Stadium, and I think Wolves will go 2-0 up. I think Wolves have been very, very good this season away from home at killing games. I know they threw it away at Arsenal, but that was a very rare moment for Wolves to go and concede 2 away from home. I personally think that Wolves will kill this game quite early on. West Ham will get a goal back through. The Blue Nose that I have to just admire, Jared Bowen. But I think Hwang Hee-chan will get another goal if he starts. And I also think that Neves will get a goal. I think it'll be 2-1.
Neves is in really good form right now. The goal he scores against Leicester was just prime Ruben Neves. Yeah. You know, only he has the ability to consistently score those goals. I think he's got something like 14 Premier League goals, 7 inside the box, 7 outside the box. It's a mental stat.
Yeah.
I don't think predicting the Wolves win is as out there as you've said because they're a net 6th anyway. They are, win their game in hand, they'd be above West Ham anyway. So, and they've got a good squad. Bruno Lage has finally got that squad in his way of playing, having pretty much inherited all of it from Nuno. He hasn't really changed much, bar, like I say, Hwang Hee-chan, he came in the summer. But other than that, it's largely the Nuno squad. So, no, which didn't need to change too much. They just had an off season, I think, last season, and Nuno wanted to go for a bigger boat. But no, I think I'm going to go. Oh, it's tough because I don't see West Ham losing it. Not at home.
Okay.
2-1 West Ham.
Okay, we've both gone opposite. We'll have to wait and see who comes out on top of that one. And then lastly, Burnley have got 2 games in this game week. They're playing on Tuesday night.
Right.
Still classes as the game week 26. Now, well, 27 even. This is another game where I see Burnley absolutely stinking out the gaff and winning 1-0 in the ugliest, dirtiest fashion. I think this is yellow. This has got yellow card for any betting there. This is yellow card written. This is going to
At
be
least 10.
This is going to be madness for yellow cards because Burnley are going to go 1-0 up for a big Wout Weghorst goal. And then all the yellow cards are just going to come flying in. Peters, Westwood, all the culprits are going to absolutely level Leicester. Maddison's going to get his heels killed. But I do think it's going to be 1-0 to Burnley. And I think Burnley will get a massive result against the Leicester side that, realistically, who knows what Leicester turns up these days. And they lost to Wolves in their last Premier League game. So, yeah, I think Burnley will win this 1-0.
You've been practicing that Wout Weghorst pronunciation all week, haven't you? Just for that moment. No, I might have to agree with a Burnley 1-0. It comes this time of season, and you finally see what teams down the bottom really want to stay up, and which teams are just happy to almost accept their fate. And Burnley aren't accepting their fate at all. They are firmly saying, "We are in control. We've got these games in hand. Let's show the league what we can do." And like I said, Brendan Rodgers has had injuries galore to deal with at Leicester over the last 2 years. Plus, he's got players that are just seeing out their contracts. It's not a happy Leicester right now. So,
no,
it does seem to be Leicester are dropping, Burnley are rising. Like I said, it's got all the makings of a Burnley park the bus, lump it forwards, tap it in, and then see out the rest of the 90 minutes.
Honestly, it really wouldn't surprise me. I think Burnley are a solid outfit, and their defensive record. I said earlier, their defensive record, it really is to be admired, but it only will be admired if at the end of the season they are not occupying those bottom 3 places. They've done quite remarkable, really. I think to concede 29 goals,
but they haven't lost that many matches either. It's the draws. Palace in the bottom half have lost the same amount of games as them. Everyone else has lost more. It's 11 draws.
Yeah,
3 wins, 11 draws. That's poor. Same for Newcastle as well.
And I reckon a lot of those draws for Burnley are 0-0s. And that's unfortunately where Sean Dyche's system can fall a bit short. And I said earlier that I think Wout Weghorst coming into Burnley is, if they stay up, I think is unbelievable business. Bringing in a Champions League pedigree player, to replace their top striker at the time, who their rival club stole from them. I said at the time that I don't think it would have had that much of an effect on Burnley because I think the player that they were bringing in, because I knew Weghorst was sort of in the works. I thought, I can see why they've bought it. Very good signing, very astute signing as well. And I think Weghorst wouldn't have come to the Premier League, especially to a Burnley, when he could have went to a bigger club without, guarantees that Dyche isn't going to get out of it. And yes, nothing's certain, but, he obviously trusts what is going on at Burnley. And quite clearly at the moment, his trust is being paid. But you do wonder whether Burnley may end up being a bit of a Fulham situation last season, where they have a bit of a good run, and then all of a sudden, with 5, 6, 7 games to go, the wheels completely fall off and they end up staying in the bottom 3. Are Burnley going to be that team that show that promise and the wheels end up just falling off for whatever unknown reason? But obviously, we've spoken about a lot tonight. Obviously, Braden unfortunately couldn't join us this evening. But Morg, as always, absolute pleasure you jumping on, especially considering that you had to jump on a little bit later. I'm sure they didn't.
It's always a pleasure.
I'm sure they didn't mind that much listening to my voice for the first half an hour. But obviously, we've gone through all the predictions, spoken about game week 26. Obviously, like I said before, we do apologise for the fact that there wasn't a show last week. Hopefully, next week it will go back to weekly stuff, but there was extreme circumstances as to why I couldn't do it. But yeah, we are done for tonight, and hopefully, Chelsea aren't even in this game week, are they?
No, we've got the cup final on Sunday.
Go on then, quick before we go. Quick prediction for that: Chelsea-Liverpool. Come on.
2-1 after extra time. Chelsea win.
Oh, he's gone for it. He's gone for it.
We have a way of winning trophies under Tuchel.
Okay.
The Champions League, the Super Cup, the Club World Cup. Obviously, this would be his first domestic. I just think he knows how to set a team up to win a trophy, and it's the perfect team to do it against. The guy he's been compared to his whole career, the guy who's pretty much shadowed every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I think Liverpool will take the lead. Liverpool will go 1-0 up, but we'll find a way back into it. And we've got enough players who have experienced winning trophies recently to get us over the line and win trophy number 3 of the season already.
Such a flex, especially when Villa literally can't beat Watford. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. Absolute bore draw. I think it'll be a really entertaining 0-0 though. But I think both teams will cancel each other out. And I think that I'm sorry to say it, I think Liverpool are going to win on pens. I'm really sorry to say it.
I'm never appearing on air again.
I think Liverpool are going to win on pens, unfortunately. I do think it's got 0-0 written all over it. I am going to bet on it as well. I think both teams will cancel each other out going forwards and defensively. I think it'll be 0-0. I think it'll be a very cagey cup final. And
well, they normally are, aren't they?
Yeah. And I hope for you that you don't play Kepa, because if you have any penalty antics like last time, you need Mendy in goal if he's fit.
I think Kepa's better for the penalty situation. My personal opinion.
You don't know
Kepa's
how good Mendy is though until he's in a shootout.
Well, we've seen him in AFCON. I watched that one.
That's true.
And he wasn't great. He's not the best. He wasn't great. He's a very good match keeper, but he's not a good penalty keeper. Whereas, Kepa's got the best penalty record of any Chelsea keeper in history. So I'd be more than happy to see him get subbed on like he did in the Super Cup final and win us a trophy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right then, so that concludes this week's episode of the SNS Football Podcast. Obviously, hopefully next week we'll have Braden as well, so the three of us can natter about football. But obviously, like I said, Morg, thanks for joining us. I'm going to go and try and catch the second half of Southampton Norwich because Dean Smith, former Villa manager, you got to go and watch him if your team ain't playing. But obviously, thank you all guys for tuning in. And we will hopefully see you same time next Friday for another show. And
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. We are back again. And if you like the video or you like the stream today, please obviously like and subscribe. We'd massively appreciate your support. Make sure you drop your comments in as well. Hopefully next week we'll be able to get more of you in the chat room, considering that we were quite late advertising for this evening. So it was always going to be quite low with numbers and stuff because it was only really last minute that we agreed to do it. But more pleasure as always, and we'll see all of you guys hopefully next week.
Bye.